What's up? My name is Duke Alexander Moore, and the purpose of this video is to teach you guys how S Corps work and the savings that come with it. So if you are in the situation where you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know how S Corps work, I keep looking it up in here, I keep looking up these videos, and I still don't get it. Well, this video, you will understand it. My promise and guarantee to you, if you are still completely confused and still completely lost by the end of this video, then I guarantee you, I will give you the permission next time you see me in public. If you see me in public, whether I'm shopping for groceries, looking for chocolate milk, you can slap the shit out of me. That's your permission. Now, if you do that, there's no one's gonna be on site. So you better be able to fight. I'm just joking, or am I? But that's my promise to you. So, in order for this to happen, I need a favor from you. So you gotta watch the video till the end, and please pay attention. I swear to you, you don't need to take notes. You can put away the remarkable, put away the notepad, just hone in and focus. And then anytime you're like, oh, I really wanna learn it, then watch the video again. Sometimes it takes retaining information to retain information. Sometimes it takes reading a book or reading a source several times. So let's get into it. I'm gonna get my handy dandy iPad. So if you are a visual learner, this is gonna be for you, baby. So lock in. Now while I get this set up and I get this stuff transferred over, a little bit about myself. My name is Duke Alexander Moore. I do own a firm called Duke Tax, where we specialize in content creators. We specialize in small business owners. Myself, I've given over 1,000 consultations. So what you're going to learn today is a cumulative of all of those years of giving me these consultations, explaining this S Corps, and now when I explain it, people understand it like that. So let us jump into it. So here's the iPad. Okay, so first thing you got to understand, this is where I'm going to slow it down. Pay attention, lock in, focus. Say, I'm ready. I'm ready. Okay, here we go. Focus. Here we go. I got you. So the first thing that you got to understand is, if you're in business by yourself, whether you're a creator, whether you're a small business owner, whether you're just getting starting out, more than likely you're going to be taxed as a sole proprietorship. Okay, so I'm going to use that as an example. A sole proprietorship, that's the default tax status for everyone. If you've heard of sole proprietorship, say, I've heard of sole proprietorship. So here's how it works at the federal level. I'm not going to touch state because it's going to get confusing. But here's how it works at the federal level. Okay, so typically you're going to have income. It'd be helpful if I was in the right mode. Income. Okay, here's my income, and let's say your income was $200,000. Okay, I see you, 200K. Okay, and then you're going to have expenses. Okay, there you go, expenses. Okay, and then let's say those expenses were $100,000. Okay, and then you're going to have what's called a net income. Net income. Okay, so your net income is going to be total income minus expenses. That's going to be your net income. So let's say that's going to be $100,000. So that is your net income. So when it comes to tax, you do not pay tax on your total income. You pay tax on your net income. So that's all the money you bring in minus your expenses. That's why write-offs are super important. You pay tax on your net income. So that's going to determine everything, okay? So remember, our net income is $100,000. So keep that, I don't know why I wrote it like that. Keep that in mind. So when you are taxed as a sole proprietorship, a sole prop, there are going to be two taxes that you pay at the federal level. The first tax is called a federal income tax. So that's like your tax brackets. You ever looked up and you said, oh my gosh, I'm in this tax bracket, blah, blah, blah. That is what that is. And so for the purpose of this example, let's say you're in the 20% tax bracket. Yeah, we're in the 20% tax bracket. Okay, love it. And then the second tax that you guys are going to have to pay, is something called self-employment tax. So I'm going to put SE right there, self-employment tax. And this is always a flat 15.3%. That's what that is, okay? Those are the two. Now, let's look at our income, and let's figure out the tax. So our federal tax is going to be $20,000, okay? Because it's 20%, 20 times, that's our federal tax, $20,000. Our self-employment tax is going to be $15,300, okay? So if we add those two numbers up together, that's going to give us an amount of $35,300. So we're paying about 35.3% in tax. So bam, that's it. You're done. Sole proprietorship done. That's what it is. Now that you guys understand how a sole proprietorship works, I'm going to explain to you how an S Corp works. So this is where you want to lock in and focus, because this is how an S Corp saves on taxes, okay? This is the sole way that an S Corp saves on taxes, okay? So I'm gonna bring up the S Corp right here. So we have our S Corp. Okay, so this is our S Corp, and then this is our sole proprietorship side. Okay, come on, connect. Okay, cool. And so for an S Corp, now an S Corp does one thing and one thing only, and I'm gonna change my ink red for dramatic purposes. Okay, so this is where you gotta lock in. The only thing that an S Corp does is this: it eliminates self-employment tax. Okay, that's the only thing an S Corp does. It eliminates self-employment tax. That is it. It eliminates self-employment tax. Bam. I can stop the video right here. That's all it does. That's the only thing an S Corp does, is it eliminates self-employment tax, okay? So don't overthink it, don't overcomplicate it. That's all it does. It eliminates self-employment tax. So if I come back over here and I bring up my S Corp, so now I only have federal, right? I only have federal. I still have my 20% because it doesn't change the federal. Okay, so I have $20,000 over here, and now my self-employment tax is 0. I have no self-employment tax. So when I'm an S Corp, all I do is pay $20,000 in taxes, and I'm done. That's it, guys. That's how an S Corp helps you save on taxes. It eliminates your self-employment tax. So if anyone asks, what's an S Corp does? It eliminates your self-employment tax. That is it. But it doesn't just stop there, okay? This is where it gets a little tricky, so I want you to follow along with me. But that's the first thing that you guys need to understand. An S Corp eliminates self-employment tax. That is it. So you can see by going to an S Corp in this example, you're saving $15,300 in taxes. Oh my God! You know what I can do with $15,300? Some stuff. Okay, so let's get back into it now. Here's what happens when you go into an S Corp. Oh my God, what is that? Oh my gosh, what is that? I'm getting scared. What is that? Oh my gosh, what is that? Look at his eyebrows. It looks angry. Oh no! Why is it angry? It is angry. Why is it pointing to my S Corp? No! Who is that? You are the who? The IRS? Ah! Okay, so here's what happens. I don't know why I did that. Lock in. Okay, so here's what happens when you go to an S Corp. It upsets the IRS. Like, you're doing something legal, you're not breaking the rules, but it upsets the IRS, and I'm going to tell you why. So, let's go back to our self-employment tax example. So, to understand what happens when we go S Corp and why it upsets the IRS, we gotta understand what's happening here. So, when you are paying federal tax, right? When you're paying a federal tax, imagine it going to some big old piggy bank that the government has. It's a big old bank, and they use that bank to pay for things. So, your federal tax goes into, the main thing it's gonna go to is like military and defense. So let's say we have there's a little tank. Ooh, okay. Okay. That's where the federal tax goes. Military defense. Your self-employment tax is going to go, we call it the grandma and the grandpa tax, okay? So let's get them little, oh my God, they are throwing their hands in the air like they just don't care. Okay, and they got a little cane. I don't know what is wrong with their cane, but let's get some little tennis balls. Let's get some little tennis balls. Like, do I have a tennis ball color? Close enough. All right. Oh my gosh. Wow, it changes colors. That is so cool. Okay. So, so here's grandma, and she's happy because she still got some hair on her head. Okay. So this is where your self-employment tax goes. It helps pay for old people to still survive. It's things like Medicare and Social Security benefits. That is where your self-employment tax is going to. You're taking care of people who are old, that is old right now. So give it up to you. Yay, yay. Oh, snap. you went S Corp, and guess what? You're no longer doing self-employment tax. You're no longer funding this program. So now the IRS is like, hey there, Buster. I like what you did over there with the S Corp. You're saving yourself some taxes. But that's not cool, because how the hell am I supposed to take care of grandma and grandpa when you decide to stop funding the program? That is not cool. That is not fair. You're going to have to do something about it, baby. So, this is where payroll or W-2 comes in, okay? This is where that comes in, because remember, S Corp eliminates self-employment tax, but when you eliminate self-employment tax, it causes a problem. You're no longer funding the Social Security program, and if everyone were to do this, we would have old people on the sidewalks and curbs everywhere. We wouldn't be able to take care of them. So let's do what we got to do to still take care of our older people, our grandma and grandpa. So this is where payroll comes in. Okay, so you may hear that. So one of the requirements when you go S Corp is you have to pay yourself a reasonable compensation. Okay, reasonable compensation. You have to. It's a requirement. There's no way around it. So what does the reasonable compensation mean? You have to set up payroll. Okay. And enter yourself a W-2 at the end of the year. We at our firm we use Gusto. I actually have a Gusto discount code, so if you guys want to use it, holla at me. But Gusto's the one I would recommend if you're doing this on your own. But you have to set up payroll, okay? Because when you set up payroll, okay, you're gonna have to decide what your salary is. What your salary is. Now, every time you run payroll or whatever your salary amount is, every time you run that, okay, every time you run salary, you're paying that 15.3%. Okay, remember this 15.3% over here? This 15.3%, that's right there. Every time you run payroll or salary, you are paying that 15.3%. Now, the cool thing is here is we get to decide what our salary is going to be. We get to pick that number, okay? And that number allows us to contribute. Now, consider this. The higher you make your salary, the more payroll taxes that you're going to have to pay. The higher the 15.3%. The lower you make your salary, the less taxes and payroll taxes you're going to have to pay, that 15.3%. So guess what? Why don't we get strategic and make it 0? Well, we can't, damn it, because the IRS says it has to be a reasonable compensation, okay? It has to be reasonable. What is reasonable? I don't know. Honestly, don't nobody know what reasonable is. It's not defined in the law. It's not defined in the IRS. But there are court cases and things to go off of and things like that. So a reasonable salary is at your discretion at the end of the day. But great practices and great tips is to use salaries that are already kind of public in similar industries. So I don't know if you're a painter, go to Glassdoor or ZipRecruiter. What's the salary of a painter or something like that? So it's at your discretion. You get to choose. You don't want to make it too high. You don't want to make it too low. You want to make it reasonable. Reasonable. So let's say in this example, we want to set our salary at $30,000. Okay. Let's say we all want to make my salary at $30,000. So in this case, I'm now paying $30,000 on this 15.3%. Okay. So which is a little bit over $4,000, a little bit over $4,000 that I'm now paying in self-employment tax or payroll tax. So let's say it's $4,000, just to make math easy, okay? So now I'm paying maybe $24K, and that's how an S Corp works, okay? So I'm gonna recap and kind of explain it to you again. So lock in. Pay attention. This is why I say you don't need no notes, you don't need no remarkable, because we're going to do recaps, and for you to truly understand and retain this information, you got to understand and see. I don't know why this thing doing black and gray, but they got to get it together because this thing looking a little funky. Okay, so let's back it up. So remember, when you're starting out your business, you haven't done nothing. I don't care if you have an LLC, if you don't have an LLC. I don't care. I don't care what the hell you have. It doesn't matter. When you're starting out by yourself, LLC, PPC, LLG, BBD, BBL, doesn't matter, okay? You are a sole proprietorship by default. Okay, you're a sole proprietorship by default. That means that you got to pay federal tax and self-employment tax at the federal level. I'm not talking about state. So, bam. Federal tax is whatever your tax bracket's at. Self-employment tax is at 15.3%. Now, if you're like, I don't want to pay no self-employment tax no more, bam, then we move over to an S Corp. Okay? So then we move over to an S Corp. What does an S Corp does? I'm gonna give you 5 seconds to say what an S Corp does before I tell you. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. If you said an S Corp eliminates self-employment tax, you got it wrong. Sorry, you got it right. You got it right. If you said anything else than that, you got it wrong. So an S Corp eliminates self-employment tax. But what happens when self-employment tax is eliminated? What happens? I'm gonna give you a hint. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. The IRS gets mad. Oh my gosh. If you said they get angry and upset, oh my gosh. Why do they get upset? Okay? I'm going to give another pop quiz. Why did they get upset? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. It's because when you went S Corp, you're no longer funding the Social Security, self-employment tax. You're no longer taking care of grandma and grandpa, so the IRS has no money to do that. So, to turn the IRS's frown upside down, what do we have? Oh my gosh, it looks very mischievous. To turn the IRS's frown upside down, what do we have to do? I'm going to give you a hint, okay? What do we have to do to turn up IRS's frown upside down? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. We look into payroll, right? We set up our payroll, we set up our salary, because that is that 15.3%, and we start funding the program again, okay? We fund the program again, but now we're only putting $4,000 in instead of this 15. So we're still doing it, so now it's a win-win. 1, we're paying fewer in taxes, and 2, we're still cooperating with the IRS. So that is how an S Corp works. When you are a sole proprietorship, the amount of self-employment tax depends on your net income. You can't really change that, okay? So if your net income is $100,000, that is 15.3%, and that is 15,300. So as a sole proprietorship, you have no choice, okay? You have no choice. You can't choose. When you go S Corp, you get a choice. You get a choice, right? You get to choose because it's based off your salary. It's based off your salary. So we can still make $100,000 in our business, but we could put our salary at like $30,000. That's reasonable. $30,000, and then that is still 15.3%, and then that is like that $4,000. So I mean, I'd rather pay $4,000 than $15,000. So our savings are like, it's really good, like 11 grand. 11 grand. But that's what it is when it comes to an S Corp versus a sole proprietorship. And so the purpose of this video is to give you guys very general and broad knowledge. I would really encourage you guys to consider, if you believe the S Corp is the right move for you, to reach out to our firm, Duke Tax. I have the link in the description, the bio, to become a client. We do give free consultations. So you can just fill out the form, see if it's the right fit for you. We'll let you know, because there's a lot more that goes into it than just this. But if you understand this, you're more than halfway there. But you got to understand, going from a sole proprietorship to an S Corp is like going from a Toyota Corolla to a Lamborghini. The Lamborghini S Corp is a much nicer tax vehicle, but it requires more maintenance, more yearly maintenance. In other words, to successfully run an S Corp, it could cost you anywhere between $4,000 to $6,000 plus to maintain an S Corp, because it's like going from a Toyota to a Corolla. So if we're looking at our self-employment tax, so do the math yourself. If you're not saving more than $4,000, $6,000 going from a sole proprietorship to an S Corp, then it's not going to make sense. It's not going. It's just simply not going to make sense. So when you're doing the math in your head and you're doing your salary, you want right here the savings right here are like $9,000. Okay, so you want your savings in this range, or you really want your savings in $4,000 for it to make sense. So that's the last thing that you guys got to understand. There's also some state issues. Like for example, like the state of Tennessee will charge like an excise tax. So it's not going to make sense. Oh my gosh, you know what's messed up? So like for example, people in New York City, we're not going to do an S Corp for you because, bro, New York City is crazy, okay? So if you have an S Corp in New York City, you got to pay federal tax, you got to pay New York state tax, and you got to pay New York City tax. And on top of that, they charge an excise tax for S Corps. It's like 9%. It's ridiculous. A city tax. A city tax. Remember, you still got to pay state. So, like, for example, in some places, it's just not going to make sense, like in New York City. So, there's just those nuances to kind of look out for. Please consult with a tax professional like Duke Tax. That's my firm, and we can for sure help you out. Outside of that, man, I'm out. Dog, I'm out, right? I think that was top 5, okay? If you learned something and you can take away, even if you learned one thing, subscribe to your boy. Like it. Drop a comment if you enjoyed this as well. And I'll see you guys on the other side. Peace out. Stay in school and make good decisions. This is